all fired up for this. I know what to expect. So let's bring him on. To what you've been told, that my speech will be the best here today, you'll be disappointed. I am very sick, and I'm sick and tired of this country. Yes, very sick. And but I'll start with a small story. This happened between me and a fella who wrote to me last week. We went to see Professor Wole Soyinka. And he called us into a small room in Ikeja. And he told us how he met Atiku. You know, I like to name names, right? And he said to Atiku, Atiku is sitting across from him, and he asked Atiku, what is it that you have fresh to offer Nigeria? He said Atiku looked at him and said, I have some things. I'm a good person. I do some nice things. The other time I opened my university when there were refugees running away. I said, Prof, that's very good. I'm asking you, what is it you will do differently if you're president of Nigeria that you couldn't do when you were vice president for 8 years? Atiku couldn't answer. And they said to him, if you have anything to offer Nigeria since you've been born, and the thing cannot be transferred to the younger generation of Nigerians, that means that idea is useless. He said after he left him, Atiku and his entourage, including Benga Daniel, couldn't take pictures with him. So that event was not known to the public until today that I'm talking to you. Because they had to leave Soyinka with their tail in between their legs. Of course, the moment they saw that Soyinka could not be fooled, they went to that man in Ota. Yes. Who is always speaking from both sides of his mouth. The dishonest, unpatriotic, inhuman Obasanjo. And asked him, well, Baba, with all the traditional rulers doing their normal rules, religious leaders, both Muslim and Christians, and said, you have to forgive Atiku because Atiku is coming back to be president of Nigeria. The usual unpatriotic, inhuman, and wicked Obasanjo invited Atiku to his house and told us that he has not forgiven Atiku. The same Atiku, he claimed that God will not pardon him if he ever recommended to be president of Nigeria. He recommended again to go and destroy Nigeria. And I said somewhere on air last week, I'm not going to speak too much about Africa's history. I teach post-colonial African history in a university in New York for 8 years. There's nothing there. He said to him, I said at that program that if it is true that there is God, and God doesn't punish Obasanjo this time around, so many of us will stop going to church. That's the truth. Because the truth is that wherever God is, He doesn't preside over the affairs of Nigerians anymore. They have redesigned their own God. Their God don't get angry anymore. The God that supervises over Nigeria is always very humble and nice to oppressors. He looked around, went back in his car, and left. Never came back to perform that night. When we saw him later, he said, of course, he has the only contract in the world which says that after you pay him, he's not under any obligation to perform. That's what happened to him. But he taught me in 1992 something I never knew. I knew, but I had to be taught the hard way, that you have to be in charge of your destiny at all times. And Fela was a man who was in charge of his own destiny. But I went to do my youth corps service in Yola, Adamawa State in 1995. When I got there, walking through a radio radio station, Radio Nigeria. The only thing on the wall, the only notice from the Ministry of Information is that under no circumstance should you play Fela Anikulapo-Kuti's music in this studio. And that was how it was across Nigeria. Why did I say that? Sometimes we don't celebrate our own. We don't celebrate the contributions that we have made at different times in this country. And that is why I think they don't teach history anymore. Because if we had history in our curriculum, somebody would have taught our children that Obasanjo is a bad person. Yes. Somebody would have taught our children that Babangida is a thief. Yes. Somebody would have taught our children and our brothers that Atiku was the custom officer who made it by stealing and robbery. Somebody would have taught our children that Buhari is a useless man.
And lifeless also. And lifeless. Let them know.
We didn't need Donald Trump to tell us that Buhari is lifeless. But here we are in 2008. There is a debate as to who to choose between the worst and the baddest. Yes. And we are all here still romanticizing about what Nigeria should be in the future. Let me tell you, Nigeria has got no future with these guys. It's the truth. We have no future because people who destroy your past cannot guarantee you any future. But it's important also not to forget that, when people talk about the history of Nigeria, in the way they understand it, they forget to mention that at every point in time, Nigeria always had a problem of leadership. And at every point in time, somebody or a group of people always intervened to take Nigeria out of the doldrums. And number one person who did on his own was Fela Kuti. And that is why his name that he adopted for himself, Anikulapo-Kuti, is true to today. The man passed on, but he refused to die in Nigeria. So, as I'm standing in front of you today, and I'm telling you a little bit of my history with Fela. Some few years ago, in New York, a friend of mine, Ogugwa, called me and said they are looking for someone to act as Fela. That is, there was going to be a show called Fela on Broadway. And I couldn't think of anybody else than myself. So I presented myself. I presented myself to audition to act that role. And it's the reason I will never sing here today. My voice was so bad, even though my mannerism was exactly like his own, that the guy said, please stop. We'll see you next time. I didn't do it because I thought I could be Fela on Broadway. But there was something he was that I wanted to be. I wanted to be the first black president on the continent of Africa. Because Fela would have been the best black president we have had. But because our country is always rejecting its best and going for its worst, we didn't appreciate Fela when he was alive. Some of you sitting here, probably your parents scolded you before for listening to his music. Some of you were ostracized for going to the shrine. Some of you were rejected at home because they said you are too Fela Selfika. That is the kind of country we are. But coming to where there are people in this country, young people, who are always intervened. And we should not forget them. Some young people in this country intervened to drive the military out of power. Yes. There's a man who didn't come here today. I heard he bailed out, Donald Duke. I would have loved to meet him and just remind him that in 1997 or thereabout, he was one of the people who was chanting that Abacha must remain in power. When we were, Donald Duke was part of the Abacha must stay people. And when we were younger, in our 20s, we fought to drive the Abachas out of power. Comfort, who was former president of NAS, sitting across from here, female, they fought to drive Abacha out of power. We fought to drive Babangida out of power. In 84 days, we drove Shonekon out of power when he legally cornered the position meant for MKO Abiola. But nobody is studying us in history books. We are studying criminals. We are praising criminals. Even some of our presidential candidates and aspirants, they look down on us. They look down on our sacrifices in this country. They talk down on us because the only Nigeria they know is the Nigeria that talks down on people. The only Nigeria they came to experience is the Nigeria that denigrates its young and youth. Someone asked me when I started running, and I've never told this answer before. He said, where will you have experience from to be president of Nigeria? You know the usual thing. And my answer was very closely, how do I get experience when I've never been allowed to do anything in my life by the useless leaders who you claim have experience? It's the same question I was asked when I once applied for scholarship. I think it was one of the oil companies in Nigeria. They came to an area in Ilaje Seldo when it was called and said they wanted first-class students. Of course, I went there, knowing my nature. They said, what's your class in the university? I said, I have, and between second class upper at that time, then I dropped to second class lower. You know, activism, how it affects you. And then he said, but we are looking for first-class students to come for the scholarship. And I told them, if you pollute our water so bad, you pollute our air so well, how do people breathe this air, drink this water, and have first class? It's the same thing for Nigeria. How do you go through so much oppression, denigration, and disgrace by elders such that you are asked for experience? How do you get experience when you've never had a job in your life after graduating from the university? Whichever experience we had to form it ourselves. Whichever jobs we ever had, we had to create those jobs ourselves. And look at people running Nigeria. There are people who have never even invented a broom in their lives. Some of them cannot tie their shoelaces. Even the umbrella that they use as their logo, some of them cannot carry it over their head when it is raining or the sunshine. So where do you expect us to gain experience from? But the truth is that we have better experience than they do. We have experience fighting for what is right for 30 years in this country. Yeah. We have experience and a lot of uncelebrated laurels underneath our belt fighting successive military rulers. We have experience fighting the people fella called international thieves in this country. You know that we have moved from international thieves into global robbers, GRs. Because what they were stealing when fella was angry, they no longer steal those things. Those were days of 10% that they collect from contracts. Now, after they are mobilized, they disappear. In fact, in some cases, to get remobilized again, they will come and destroy the roads that they were contracted to build. We are living in a country of contractors without builders. And the country you are seeing today, this country, Nigeria, this is the country of their dream. The country without roads, the country without hospitals, the country without schools. Is the country of the dreams of the Babangidas of this world. Is the country of the dream of the Obasanjos of this world, or the Abubakars of and the Buharis of this world. And I would say, those who are using overtake, don't overtake. No. We should change and upgrade that to overrun, don't overrun. Run our lives. And the solution, people, is the revolution. We are not going anywhere without adding the revolutionary favor to this next election. If any one of you is still under the illusion that these old baggers, as we call them, we hand over power voluntarily to us, we are deceiving ourselves. If any one of us under the illusion that the plastic card that is referred to as the permanent voter's card will guarantee you a transfer of power from one generation to the other, you are wasting your time. Because why? That card is already on Alibaba. They figured out where they cannot control the card, they figure out how to withdraw the card from circulation. Most of Lagos now, they have these cards in their possession. And when election day comes, they will be the ones in control of the cards. Of course, a few of you might vote, but your votes will not count because it has been designed to fail from the beginning. And I'm saying to you, if we won very early, we might actually win the battle before the war. And what is the battle? It's the battle of minds. There's no question about it. A lot of young people are confused. And you cannot blame them. If all you have had your entire life is being battered and badgered and disgraced and denigrated, you will have no self-esteem. And you will not have the ability to even challenge your oppressors, because most young people in Nigeria don't even know their oppressors. The people who are the oppressors are their role models. That is why you find out that most Nigerian young people are more comfortable with younger musicians who are thinking about things that have no relevance to their lives, as opposed to musicians who are singing consciously about the socio-political conditions of our country. So, I could stand here telling you that, well, these people are old, that's the problem. It is true that they are old. That is what they call gerontocracy. But there are also a lot of young people in the system who are morons. And they are practicing what I call morontocracy. And the combination of these young people and the old people is the reason why Nigeria is in the condition it is today. Each time you find a Buhari, you find a Yahya Bello somewhere. The people that gathered in Abuja for the 2 million man march were all young people from Abacha. The people who largely pushed for third term in this country were young people in their 30s. Right? People who were there saying that Jonathan have no rights to become the president of Nigeria when Yar'Adua was dying. They were young people. In fact, the person who was Speaker of the House of Reps at that time, Dibeji Bankole, was perhaps the youngest of our generation. And he did everything to frustrate Jonathan coming to power. You know, my sister just said that, you know, this is the worst government we have. I agree with her. But it's a progression, because Nigeria has been in a situation that it is today. The last government is always better than the next. But that don't mean that the worst, in fact, if you ask me which is the worst government, it hasn't come yet. It's coming next year if we vote for Buhari or Atiku. That will be the worst government that we have. Because both of them have unfinished business with Nigeria. Atiku was not happy that he didn't steal enough when he was with Obasanjo. That he didn't get enough licenses for university. Maybe he didn't get enough oil blocks for himself. And he didn't probably marry enough wives. So when they return, they are coming with vengeance. Vengeance on our resources, vengeance on our people. Atiku is coming back to create a paradise for thieves. And you can see the people who are excited about him. There are other people who stole, who didn't steal enough last time, or people who are aspiring to become thieves, including young people. It's the same thing with Buhari. If Buhari returns this year, he will take away all forms of pretense about human rights, about his support for Islamic extremism, about his respect for your farms. He will take it off, because at that time you have nothing at stake. But the truth is this, and I'll say that finally, that it is untrue that there are no young people who can take this country to the next level. You know, a lot of young people are out there who can do fantastic things. But I also agree with the people who have said it, that it's not enough to be young. You must have a young people who is willing to confront these monsters. Our moderator here said it, that maybe if Niger Republic gets it right, we'll be able to destroy the monster of Boko Haram. I disagree with him. The biggest monster that created Boko Haram is the leadership of Nigeria. And the moment Nigeria gets it right, every other country that is suffering right now, we have no option than to get it right. Nigeria is going to become the next sheriff in town. Let me give you an example. Cameroonian activists walked into this country to fight for Biya. They were arrested in Abuja, detained, and sent back to Cameroon to be killed by Paul. To the misery in Cameroon. But the opposite of it is that with what we are doing here, because of the kind of useless leadership we have, Cameroon is going to become another burden to us, the same way Niger became a burden to us, the same way Chad became a burden to us. Every time there is a useless African dictator, Nigeria is always part of the people propping them up. Nigeria is part of the leadership that is propping up the Boy Scouts in Togo, who are killing his people. They bring him to Abuja to come and have useless negotiations because Nigeria never wants other countries to progress because Nigeria is not progressing. So this is where we have a problem. But I don't think it's a problem anymore because now you have clear alternatives. Clear alternatives. You have a chance to either go the route of where we are, where we're coming from, or you have a chance to try something brand new. I would say lastly, it is not everything that is looking brand new that is original, right? So many of the things we are seeing now that is glittering is also not gold. But you know, as Fela said in one of his songs, that this uprising will bring out the beast. Thank you very much.